I corrected myself as a failing.
Failing. That's what I was going to ask. So you still have hope.
I think, yeah, I have hope. But the notion that in 2026, my children have less civil rights than I had.
Maybe the problem isn't that America isn't worth defending. Maybe the problem is that lots of people today are entitled whiners who have no perspective and no idea how good they have it.
She didn't say her life was harder. She didn't say her career suffered. She said her children, living right now in 2026, have fewer civil rights than she did growing up. That's a significant claim, and it deserves a closer look at what's actually behind it. Her son Gabriel is 22. Her daughter Paloma is 18. They were raised inside a gated mansion in a neighborhood Sunny has described on national television as overwhelmingly white. She has talked openly about driving to the local police station to personally introduce her son to officers, so he wouldn't be profiled while out for a jog. That is the civil rights crisis she's putting on the table, not a policy, not a law. A conversation she initiated with local cops in her own exclusive zip code. That's the evidence she's using to declare America a failing experiment in front of millions of viewers.
You called America a failed experiment when you were on Friday.
Well, and I corrected myself as a failing.
Failing. That's what I was going to ask. So you still have hope.
I think, yeah, I have hope. But the notion that in 2026, my children have less civil rights than I had.
That's horrible and terrifying.
That is terrifying.
Yeah.
And so any scientific experiment that you would take, because I've discussed this with my husband, because apparently he heard some of the blowback when I said it's a failing experiment. If an experiment is working, this type of thing doesn't happen. There are leaps forward, not backwards. So it is a failing experiment.
Bill Maher just did something that almost nobody in mainstream television bothers to do anymore. He put the numbers next to the narrative, and the numbers are brutal. As of fiscal year 2024, 34.7 million people have active green card applications pending to get into the United States. That is the highest number ever recorded in American history, and only about 3% of them will actually get in this year. Meanwhile, over 50 million immigrants already live inside America's borders, a record high, matching a share last seen in 1890. Think about what that means for a second. Tens of millions of people from every corner of the planet are standing in line, sometimes for decades, just for a shot at living inside the experiment Sunny just called broken. They know something she doesn't seem to want to acknowledge.
And is it possible for a country to lose itself so much that leaving it is justified? Yes, but we're not there yet, not by a long shot. And we don't need quitters. We need people who will stay and fix it. Maybe the problem isn't that America isn't worth defending. Maybe the problem is that lots of people today are entitled whiners who have no perspective and no idea how good they have it.
Stop right there. Because what Sunny just did deserves to be called exactly what it is. The United States government has formally and publicly condemned China's treatment of Uyghur Muslims. World leaders have used the word genocide. International courts have weighed in. This is not a contested point, and Sunny's counter-argument, offered on live television, is that America has its own incarceration problems, so the comparison somehow levels out. That's not analysis. That's a multi-millionaire sitting in a TV studio holding up American criminal sentencing statistics next to what the international community has described as one of the worst human rights situations on the planet, and concluding that America loses, in front of millions of people, without a single number to back it up.
America is not the #1 global power. It's not going to be Denmark. It's going to be communist China, a country that right now the government is imprisoning Uyghur Muslims in concentration camps. It is a deeply racist government. It's a human rights violating government. It is a government that if they are the leader of the free world, we are not a free world the way that we are right now. So
the notion of patriotism and the notion of America and the American flag has been co-opted by the right as if they are true patriots. But when I listened to Christopher Wray, the head of the FBI, he said white supremacy is the biggest domestic threat to this country. And so as a woman of color with a 6'2" black kid in college and a 5'7", 5'8" black kid in high school, I don't see that part of American exceptionalism. I'm sorry. No. I think this country has a lot of problems that could be solved. Yes, maybe they're putting Muslims in jail in Afghanistan, I think you mentioned, and China. They're putting a lot of more black people in jail.
That right there is perspective. And it's exactly what Sunny never brings to the table. Bill isn't defending China. He's not praising their government or their system. He's doing something far more effective. He's forcing a comparison that makes the original argument collapse under its own weight. 500 new cities built in 2 generations. Hundreds of millions of people moved out of poverty. China made enormous economic gains. And in that same window, what did America build? The smartphone Sunny uses to film her segments, the airlines carrying her to Africa on her heritage trips, and the television network cutting her a check approaching $2 million every year to sit on camera and tell the country it's not worth believing in. Every platform she stands on to criticize America, America built it. That contradiction isn't small. It's the whole story.
Anything they are as serious as a prison fight. Look, we all know China does bad stuff. They break promises about Hong Kong autonomy, they put Uyghurs in camps and punish dissent, and we don't want to be that. But there's got to be something between authoritarian government that tells everyone what to do and a representative government that can't do anything at all. In 2 generations, China has built 500 entire cities from scratch, moved the majority of their huge population from poverty to the middle class, and mostly cornered the market in 5G and pharmaceuticals.
So there's the verdict, delivered with total confidence. America is irredeemably anti-woman. The proof? No female president. Not yet. What that argument quietly skips over is everything that doesn't fit the frame. A female vice president was sworn into office in 2021. Hillary Clinton won the popular vote in 2016 by nearly 3 million ballots. And right now, one of the most watched daytime television programs in the country is hosted and led entirely by women, including Sunny Hostin herself, whose salary places her firmly inside the top fraction of a % of all American earners. But it didn't stop there. Just days after the 2024 election, she went on the air and categorized millions of American voters by gender and race. Latino men, white women, conservative women, dissected and judged in a single segment. The same woman demanding the country stop defining people by background was doing exactly that. Live on network television.
Weaponize her husband against Hillary Clinton. And the bottom
They did all
line
those
is,
things.
this country is a misogynistic country, and this country is a country that out of all of the first world countries hasn't been able to elect a female president.
Here's what she consistently leaves out whenever she presents this argument. She is the same person who, within days of the 2024 election results coming in, stood in front of her audience and reduced entire categories of American voters to racial and gender labels. Latino men, white women, Republican women. Tens of millions of real people, reduced to demographic boxes, she decided explained their choices. The argument only holds together if you accept one set of rules for how Sunny can talk about people, and a completely different set of rules for everyone else. Her lived experience is off limits for scrutiny. Everyone else's is fair game for mass generalization. That's not advocacy. That's a double standard in plain sight.
I know that as a country, it's very difficult for people to believe that racism and misogyny, they're just alive and well. I think that we don't want to think that about ourselves, our neighbors, our friends, but it's my lived experience tells me that it does still exist, even if your lived experience doesn't tell you that it exists. And
the facts support that. I think we have a graph. If you look at there's a clear racial divide in who voted for Trump as opposed to who voted for Kamala Harris. It's very clear. It's not only clear by race, but it's also clear by education. And so the notion somehow that is not true. This is by education. Those who attended college voted for her at a higher degree than those that didn't.
But I've said that.
Let me just finish. And so I've said that before, and there was so much backlash because I think it's an uncomfortable, inconvenient truth about it.
That line hit because the record is right there in public view for anyone willing to look. America elected Barack Obama to the presidency. Twice. The first time, he won by the largest popular vote margin a Democratic candidate had achieved since Lyndon Johnson's landslide in 1964. He was then re-elected 4 years later. And yet the conversation on that set regularly proceeds as though this country has never in its history shown any willingness to move past racial lines when it comes to the highest office in the land. The evidence doesn't support the story they're telling, and more people are starting to notice the gap.
Bunch of privileged mean girls complaining about privilege and trying to make fetch happen. What a shocker that the people who see everything through the lens of race see their election loss as a result of racism. And yes, if only we weren't so irredeemably unenlightened, we would have elected president by now. Oh, what, we did? Oh, right, and then re-elected him. Maybe you missed it because it wasn't on TikTok.
One incident, one beach in Florida. And from that single moment, the conclusion drawn on live daytime television is that a significant portion of Americans are prejudiced. That's the evidentiary bar being applied to 330 million people. And here's something Sunny has never once brought up on her show, despite spending years building a public brand around confronting the history of race in America. On the PBS documentary series Finding Your Roots, Sunny sat down and learned the history of her own bloodline. What the genealogical records showed was that her fourth great-grandfather was himself a slave trader. Her own ancestors were personally involved in running the trade she has built a career discussing. That is not an accusation. That is documented, recorded genealogical history from a show she agreed to appear on. She just never brings it back up on The View.
You think that this division that we're
If you
creating...
look like me, you would believe differently.
But you know what, Alyssa, a woman.
But just to understand, are we saying, do we think the vast majority of Americans are racist? That's what I'm trying to... I hope we understand.
I think that there is a significant portion that are racist, and you can't dismiss my lived experience.
I never would say. I would never...
When I say that there are a lot of racists in this country, I just experienced my son walking down the beach being called the N-word several times in Florida.
And then Bill Maher went somewhere that nobody on Sunny's own network has ever had the nerve to go.
Bottom line, she managed to take a general observation that spouses of any stripe stick together and make it only about whites. And why? Because what else does she have? Nothing. She's not funny or smart or interesting, but she's an expert in calling people racist, so congrats on that.
Russia, Saudi Arabia, Sudan, Nigeria. 15 years in a prison cell simply for calling an invasion a war. Amputation as a legal sentence for theft. Protesters detained, beaten, or disappeared for standing in a public square with a sign. That is what state-enforced silence actually looks like. That's what a government with no tolerance for dissent actually does to its people. And Sunny Hostin? She still has her show. She still has her network. She still has the Tudor mansion and the second home in Oak Bluffs. She walked off that set after calling the country broken, got in a car, and went home. Completely untouched, completely free. In most of the countries Bill just listed, that segment never airs. She never says those words publicly. She goes to prison. The freedom to call your country a failure on national television in front of millions of people without a single consequence, that's not a failing experiment. By any honest definition, that is the experiment working exactly as designed.
Russia just referring to the war in Ukraine as a war can get you 15 years in the fabulous prisons made famous by some of the world's most famous novels. You think America's evil because we didn't nominate Margot Robbie for an Oscar? Just wait till you get thrown out the window of your very own dream house. Saudi Arabia, Nigeria, and Sudan still cut the hands off of thieves, so if you're coming from San Francisco, do your shoplifting at home. And you might also want to do your protesting before you go, because protesters are routinely shot in lots of places. Gosh, it almost seems like the world is full of suffering, intolerance, and oppression on a scale we can't imagine. But that can't be true, because if it was, we'd be protesting it.
That is the contradiction no one on that side of the argument ever wants to sit with. The same political class that has spent years making the moral case for open immigration, for welcoming everyone who dreams of a better life into this country, includes, according to that poll, a 59% majority who have personally entertained the idea of leaving. They want the world to come here for the American dream. They just don't want to live in it themselves. And Sunny is the clearest example. She told her audience she would leave. She said it more than once. After the failed experiment comment went viral, someone online actually offered to crowdfund her a one-way ticket to Europe. $320 all in. She passed, because the failing experiment is writing her a check for nearly $2 million a year. And that, more than anything else she's said, tells you everything you need to know about how much she actually believes what she's saying.
59% of self-identified liberals say there have been times when they considered leaving America for good, like after NBC canceled The West Wing. I don't get it. You want so badly for every immigrant to come to this country and experience the good life, but somehow it's so terrible you want to leave?
That single line exposes something that goes much deeper than one debate on a talk show. Bill Maher hasn't changed his positions in any dramatic way. He's been a liberal for decades. He's been making the same arguments about free speech, personal responsibility, and political honesty for as long as he's been on television. But 10 years ago, he was celebrated on the left. Today, he's treated like a defector. The party moved. He didn't. And what the modern Democratic establishment has decided is that anyone unwilling to accept every new orthodoxy without question, anyone who still asks hard questions from inside the coalition, is no longer welcome in it. Maher refuses to follow that script. And that refusal is exactly what makes people on both sides of the aisle stop and actually listen to him.
Get this straight. It's not me who's changed. It's the left, who is now made up of a small contingent who've gone mental and a large contingent who refuse to call them out for it. But I will. That's why I'm a hero at Fox these days. Which shows just how much liberals have their head up their... Because if they really thought about it, they would have made me a hero on their media. But that can't happen in this ridiculous new era of mind-numbing partisanship.
There it is. The data Sunny never presents on her show. Not a pundit's opinion, not a cable news chyron, an actual survey. And what it found is that Black Americans and Hispanic Americans express more pride in this country than white progressives do. The communities Sunny claims to speak for don't share her conclusion. Most Americans still believe in this place. Most of them wake up every morning and build something here, raise families here, fight for it here. They don't sit behind iron gates in Tudor mansions, telling millions of viewers the whole thing is falling apart, and the cracks are showing even on her own set. Bill Maher saw it. Greg Gutfeld saw it. And Whoopi Goldberg, her own co-host, looked into that same camera and said she is proud to be an American and forever grateful for this country. The narrative is unraveling, on the very show built to deliver it.
Poll last year asked, if America is the greatest country in the world, more blacks and Hispanic Americans agreed with that than the white progressives. It asked if racism is built into our society. White progressives agreed with that at higher levels than Hispanic people. It asked if government should increase border security. Same result. Hispanic Americans are less okay with illegal immigration than whitey. The votes are in. They don't want your pity.
The only person in the room who doesn't seem to see it is Sunny Hostin herself. Now, is she the authentic voice of a real movement, or is she the voice of her own very comfortable grievance? Is America genuinely a failing experiment, or is it the single destination that 34 million people are still waiting in line to reach? And how much longer can The View hold together when its own anchors are publicly disagreeing on the air? Drop your take in the comments. Hit like if Bill said what needed to be said, and subscribe, because the next breakdown is already loaded.